The session is titled, Why the A in EMEA is Silent and What We Can Do About It. Please, a round of applause for Aniedi.
Keep clapping.
Please keep clapping.
You're not clapping enough. If not, he will not come on stage, yo.
Aniedi, you know how you do this thing where you always introduce me for talks and you embarrass me by reading my bio. I'm a good girl, so I'm not going to embarrass you today.
Are you sure we shouldn't embarrass him together? Because I'm down for it.
But yes, ladies and gentlemen, Aniedi.
All right. It had to happen. Can you hear me? All right. I'm kind of a bit unsettled, but also very excited to be back here in Lagos, in Nigeria, on the stage of Oscar Fest. My last Oscar Fest talk, I think, was in 2020, and then there was the pandemic in 2021, and in 2022, I submitted a call for papers. I was told it wasn't good enough, so I had to go back and do my homework. First of all, this means a lot to me, right? For those of you who know, I used to lead developer relations at Google across sub-Saharan Africa. That is everything minus North Africa. I actually don't like the word sub-Saharan Africa because I think it is wrong to describe a location, a geography, a people based on the fact that it's related to a desert. And because the sub-Saharan Africa description comes with a lot of connotations that are generally negative, right? It's not like it's a fantastic desert where you do rallies and stuff like that. People die in that desert. People try to cross the desert. So when you hear SSA and sub-Saharan Africa, it kind of puts you in a bad mood and sets things the wrong way. About 9 months ago, I moved over to the US to lead developer relations for Google for our North America community programs. That's the Google Developer Groups and the Google Developer Experts program. And I think the reality of making that step, almost like being a reverse expatriate, coming from Africa to go lead developer relations or to go co-lead developer relations in the US, really got me thinking a lot about how far we have come as developers, as Africans, as individuals, and I'm humbled to be able to come back here and say that my name is Aniedi, and I co-lead developer relations for Google in the US and Canada. So my talk today is something that has come up a lot. You've experienced it one way or the other. You may not know. Some of us have experienced it in very deeply and very painful ways. The consequence of being the A in EMEA. It is tough, and it's very painful. I'm going to add just one more thing that is not in my slides to my experience over the last 12 hours. 12 hours ago, I lost my passport. I lost my Nigerian passport, and it has my US visa, my authorization to work in the US, the only way I can go back to the US next week. It has my UK visa. So literally, I'm stuck here. And by the way, if you see my passport anywhere, it got lost somewhere between the airports in Abuja and this venue yesterday at about 4 p.m. when I realized it was missing. Please just give it to anyone and then hand it over back to me. And why do I say this is such a big deal? Because in some countries, you lose your passport, you send a mail in the post, they send you another one. You lose your passport, you don't need a visa to go to 98 or 99% of the countries in the world. You get a new passport or even probably an ID card and you can travel. A lost passport in Nigeria means a whole lot. And with all the kind of visas that I have, that lost passport is not a joke. And it's part of the A in EMEA or EMEA. So what is EMEA? What's this about? If you've not worked in very corporate sectors or some big organizations, it's mostly a sales-driven term that stands for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And then what then tends to happen is you will hear, this job is open to people in EMEA. This company has their headquarters for EMEA in this location. This company has XYZ role for country manager, regional manager, or developer advocate for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And many of us in this room, extremely many of some of the so-called rock stars, the best of us, if you want to be as modest but also as honest as possible, have applied to these EMEA jobs. Sometimes we're just turned down when they realize you have a green or some silly passport. Or you go through all the stages, smash all the technical interviews, all the soft skill interviews, and then at the last stage, they don't give you the job. And it can be very painful, but I want to play devil's advocate a little bit. Sometimes it's not their fault, right? We get very hot. We go on Twitter, we rant. Adora has ranted. Shady has ranted. Everyone, almost everyone, we've all ranted about this being treated as an African in the developer community. And we can do a lot more than that. What more can we do? We can rant more. We can scream more. We can tweet more. We can abuse everybody, from the outgoing president to the forthcoming, I don't know. We can abuse everyone about the switch. I promise not to crack any political jokes. But then, what does this EMEA really mean? Can I get this to click? So it kind of looks a little like this. So generally, it's a bunch of countries in Africa, Europe, Middle East. So from a political point of view, you have all these countries with their different identities, different flags. And once you just Google EMEA, switch to images, you see a lot of views about EMEA. What does this mean to you? For those in Africa, a continent that has probably 1 billion people or more, there's a number of people here who can't travel outside Africa, even when they have genuine reasons. Sometimes they can't travel within Africa, even when they have genuine reasons. In the US, I've been doing my job for the last 9 months. With a US visa, I can go from California to Atlanta to New York to Miami, different communities, different cities, doing what I'm paid to do with ease, covering a large population of 300 million people who relatively are not the poverty capital of the world. They do have poor people, but they have a lot of very rich people. So if you build a product and it's a paid product and it's $7.99 for subscription or it's $10 for subscription, they're going to pay for it. Recently, I heard some statistics that there are less than 1 million iPhones on the MTN network in Nigeria. Just 1 million. What is 1 million iPhones? And probably 80% of them are second-hand phones. So when you look at the purchasing power of somebody who builds an iOS app targeting Nigeria, your customer base is 200,000 people. The company I work for has 9 products that has 1 billion users or more. And we have 3 products that have more than 2.5 billion monthly active users. So when you start building a product, or you start thinking of building the next Google, or the next Facebook, or Netflix, or whatever your product is, if your addressable market is 200,000, no one's going to look at you. I'm sorry. You're few, and you're poor. So if I release a product, and to get it launched in Africa, I have to talk to 54 governments, 54 central banks, 54 communication commissions, 54 regulators, 54 privacy data protection regulations just to release a product to your country. I'm sorry, I'm not doing it. What does this also look like? I mean, from a geographic point of view, it sort of looks like this. So cut out the rest of the world. This is Africa. I mean, the world maps, there's a lot of stories about world maps. It doesn't really show. Some people say it was rigged. But there's really 1 billion people in here, and then that whole big thing, I think, is probably Russia, and then the rest of Europe, Middle East, and then this is Western Europe right here. And, the so-called EMEA, when jobs, opportunities, events, conferences like this happen, sometimes the Africa is ignored. Something is done somewhere else. It's even called the Africa Forum, and it's holding in France. Afrotech Summit, it's holding in Belgium. The Africa what is holding in the US. So in many ways, people talk about EMEA, covering EMEA, targeting EMEA, opening up opportunities for people in EMEA, but Africa is not on the map. I was at a conference very recently, and something struck me. I actually got a T-shirt, but I didn't wear it. And it said, if you are not on the table, you're most likely on the menu. Right? Many of you have heard things, and they make this reference to our company. If you don't pay for the product, you are probably the product. You've heard that before. How many of you have heard that before? Yeah, so this one struck me. If you're not on the negotiating table, if you're not on the decision table, I promise you're on the menu. And that's not a very fantastic place to be. So why does this hurt? And what's the other side of this story? Let's look at the next slide. How many have seen this image before? It's some world map image, taking a picture at night, looking over the world. I mean, there's different time zones, but then when they say the dark continent, sometimes it connotes your skin color, but sometimes you don't have light. You jump on a Zoom call, I'm sorry, my connection is down. They give you task, I cannot push to production. It frustrates your teammates. And the reason why you are being a bit empathetic and nice about it right now is because you're the one suffering that. If you are the one on the other side, you get lights. You know? But this is what it looks like when you look God view. Now, no get lights. Why should they hire you? You're going to come with all sorts of excuses, all sorts of everything. So sometimes, this is the story. The silent A in EMEA comes in this ways. Job offers, you don't get them. Conferences and conference invitations, they don't invite you. Product launches, they say this product is not launching in Africa. This, you can't make a payment. And I'm sure if I went around the room, everybody has one A in EMEA story that you can relate with. So I'm not here just to rant and complain about tell you what's going wrong. I'm going to give you 2 examples, probably 3 examples of what you can do about the silent A in EMEA. And that's it. I'm done. So the first one is, all right, so this is frozen. All right, let me go back. Is the A in EMEA. When it comes to infrastructure. Yes, conference infrastructure. Do you know what they did to put this place to make it look like this? I don't know what to do right now. So let me just, it has moved on my laptop. It's not moving on the screen. I'm sorry about this. Can we go to the backup? All right. So one of them is you can just be audacious. You can start a revolution as an individual. You can see something that is being done somewhere, come back to your country, or you don't even have to go and come back, and start up an organization like Co-Creation Hub in Nigeria and be practically responsible for 80% of the prosperity that has come out of the Nigerian tech ecosystem. If Bosun didn't do Co-Creation Hub, we would still be paying probably $150K to connect to InterSwitch WebPay. No shades, InterSwitch, but you shouldn't have been charging us that kind of money. Co-Creation Hub has even gone on to acquire other companies or other organizations like iHub, which was one of the pioneers, right? So you could start up something like this. You could invent M-Pesa. You could start up Ushahidi. There are great examples of fantastic software companies or organizations that have changed the world, started in Africa. Basically, in the words of Unico developer Prosper, another day, another opportunity to be world class. You need to get so good that it doesn't matter whether there's an A in EMEA and whether it's silent. Because when you make a mark, they won't ignore you. Period. So if you want to rant. If you want to tweet. I will tweet. But you have to make that change by giving 0 flicks about what anybody says about you or the color of your skin, and do it big. Next slide. So this isn't loaded. Second one is, the world has changed. And we're in the internet money era. Whether you like crypto or not, Bitcoin or not, there is a Nigerian who is a core contributor to Bitcoin and was recently appointed into the board of Twitter's crypto thingy. You can sit here and be so good that it doesn't matter whether you are in Johannesburg, Lagos, Ikot-Ekpene, Cape Town. You can do this. It has to be done. If not, no one is going to care about you. And then finally is what we're doing here today. Next slide. Oscar Fest. If a bunch of, I don't know, crazy people, silly people, people who just dreamt that they could do it, didn't stand up and decide to put together an open source conference for Africa in Africa, Angie won't be here. All the folks who have come to Oscar Fest, all of you won't be here. I won't be here. But you have to put your ecosystem and your continent on the map. So next slide, shout out to the organizers of Open Source Community Africa, Oscar Fest, because what you're doing is you're fixing the impressions about the A in EMEA by doing this. This picture is extremely powerful and will unlock doors, sponsorship, resources, jobs, opportunities for everyone in this room and for thousands, millions of people outside this room. So my charge to you is found a unicorn out of Africa. Contribute to Bitcoin or something similar. Or just go ahead, start up a meetup, or launch an audacious conference like Oscar Fest. Thank you very much.